My name is Technical Sergeant Van Horn. Myself, along with Miss Diana Gibbs, we're going to go over some of our most common education services programs that we get questions about. We're going to talk about the Montgomery GI Bill Selected Reserve, how to get your education data updated, tuition assistance, the post 9/11 GI Bill, and then how to transfer that benefit to your eligible dependents. So we're going to go ahead and get started off with talking about the Montgomery GI Bill Selected Reserve and getting your education data updated. We're going to go over our reference material, Montgomery GI Bill Selected Reserve eligibility, the documentation that's required, how to get your education data updated, and then we're going to talk about the differences between getting updates between enlisted and officer airmen. Okay, so these are our references. The DOTI covers everything for the Chapter 1606. Those are the two forms that we primarily use for the program. And then the AFI covers education data updates. So the Chapter 1606 Montgomery GI Bill is a program that was enacted by Congress to attract high-quality men and women into the armed forces. It covers a wide variety of training and consists of undergraduate or graduate degrees, certificates, diplomas from either a business, technical, or vocational school, and can cover certifications like flight training, etc. If you are curious if your training desire is going to be covered, you want to get in contact with the VA to see if the Chapter 1606 will cover it. For enlisted folks, you're going to need to be on an initial 6-year enlistment in the reserve component. So you can either be IMA, unit assigned, Air National Guard member, and you'll be notified upon your initial eligibility by your Education Services Office. For IMA members, Headquarters ARPC actually services as your Education Services Office. So you'll want to get in contact with us and we will set you up with eligibility. For officers, the same criteria is required for eligibility, except for the 6-year enlistment. Obviously, we'll need a 6-year service obligation from you. That's going to be on top of any obligated service that you may already have incurred. The most common type of obligated service that we see that contradicts the 1606 eligibility is going to be Air Force Academy and ROTC service obligations. So those cannot run concurrently, those obligations. They would be consecutive obligations. The benefit's going to cover up to 36 months of schooling for you. If you happen to be eligible for more than one VA program, you can use the two programs in conjunction with one another to receive a maximum of 48 months. So for instance, if you had the active duty Montgomery GI Bill and transferred into the post 9/11, if you've used all 36 months of your Montgomery, you could potentially get 12 additional months to increase the GI Bill benefit to 48 months of benefits. Additionally, the Montgomery GI Bill once had a 14-year eligibility limit to it. So once you became eligible, you had 14 years to use it. Now the 1606 and kicker benefits are eligible for you to use until you separate from the selected reserve. The form that we use to notify members of their eligibility is called the DD Form 2384-1. It's the official documentation for your eligibility. It's going to be, once it gets completed, either your Education Services Office or if you're an IMA member here at Headquarters ARPC, we will upload it into your personnel record, which will also be displayed in your product. Additionally, a MIL-PDS update will accompany that to reflect your eligibility, which will be communicated to the VA to show them that you are eligible for the Chapter 1606. The 2384-1 is also known as a NOBE, which is the Notice of Basic Eligibility for Guard and Reserve members for the 1606. So the kicker, it's designed to improve recruiting and retention of critical AFSCs in the Air Force and Air Force Reserve. You must be eligible for the Montgomery GI Bill Selected Reserve Basic Benefit to be eligible for the kicker. And additionally, you must be in a kicker AFSC, which is a critical AFSC determined by the Secretary of the Air Force. So the Montgomery GI Bill Selected Reserve kicker can be used in conjunction with with either your Montgomery GI Bill Selected Reserve, the active duty Montgomery GI Bill, or the post 9/11 GI Bill. So that's one of the nicest benefits about the kicker. Some of the AFSCs that are eligible for the Montgomery GI Bill Selected Reserve Kicker program are going to be 1As, which are aircrew operations, 1Ns, intel, 1T, which are aircrew protection, 2As, aerospace maintenance, 2F, fuels, 2T, transportation, 2W, which is munitions and weapons, 3Es for civil engineering, 4Ns for medical and surgical services, and 8D for linguists. So you should have been advised of your eligibility at the date of your enlistment with your recruiter or your education services officer. However, if you weren't granted eligibility and you feel like you should have been, if you didn't elect any other incentive program, then go ahead and get with your Education Services Office to figure that your eligibility status out. All right, again, for kicker, it's the same eligibility criteria for the basic benefit. Enlisted folks, you need to be on the 6-year enlistment. Officers need to have the 6-year service obligation. That obligation does begin on the date that you request eligibility from your education office. So if you're thinking about using a program like this, you want to get into the office and request eligibility. The form that we use to grant kicker eligibility is the 2384-2, also known as the kicker contract. It's a similar document to the 2384-1. This contract just states that you are serving in a critical AFSC or unit, and that you will have the eligibility criteria. All right, the kicker in conjunction with the 1606 is actually a pretty good benefit. So 1606 by itself, on a per month basis in full-time study, will give you $362 per month. And then the kicker, if you're eligible, will give you an additional $350 per month of full-time study, which comes out to $712. The benefits, like I said earlier, can be used for a wide variety of degree levels and certifications. Just get with your local VA office to figure out how to best use it for yourself. 1606 can be suspended. So like I said, if you leave the selected reserve, you will lose your eligibility for Chapter 1606. If you leave for something like a job, school conflict, missionary work, or if you left for an AGR assignment, your program will be suspended, which means that you can come back and use it, but you must reaffiliate with the selected reserve within 12 months from leaving. Without reaffiliation, your Chapter 1606 will be terminated. So termination means that you lose the benefit forever. Termination occurs after an involuntary discharge from the selected reserve. If you fail to reaffiliate from the selected reserve after voluntarily leaving for 1 year, or if you're determined an unsatisfactory participant. For any of those reasons, you'll lose the benefit and you won't be able to get it back. Additionally, the Chapter 1606, you can only earn it once. So after your first initial 6-year obligation is over, you can't incur another benefit by incurring another 6-year obligation. All right, academic updates. So there's a difference between traditional reserve and IMA reserve, as well as enlisted and officers for this program. So this slide right here is going to be for our IMA folks, which I've heard we've got quite a few out in the audience today. So for any of your degree levels, it's going to be doctorate, master's, bachelor's, associate's degrees, and certifications. You can send your official sealed transcripts directly from your accredited college or university registrar's office to us here at headquarters ARPC at that address listed, and we will update your records accordingly. Getting your record updated is essential to ensuring that your packages are board ready, additionally for assignments and promotions. Once we receive your official transcript in the mail from your accredited university, our processing time takes about 10 days to update your personnel record with your degree level. So that'll take about 2 weeks. Just keep that in mind when you're submitting your package for a promotion. For traditional reservists, it's going to be the exact same process. However, instead of sending your official transcripts here to ARPC, we're going to have them sent to your base education and training office where the update can be accomplished. Their turnaround times can vary based on their work volume. All right, this is the formal training. Formal training is typically going to be accomplished at the schoolhouse that you attended. If your formal training update is not completed, then you want to reach out to the schoolhouse to ensure that they update your personal training completion. If formal training completion can't be updated by the schoolhouse, you'll want to send your completion certificate to OTA down at AFPC via the email link that's listed on the screen. For enlisted, again, between traditional reserve and IMA, your Education Services Office can update your PME level. So if you go in residence, typically the schoolhouse is going to update your PME level, but if they don't, if you have your completion certificate, your Education Services Office can do it for you. Additionally, if you go distance learning, same thing applies. If it's not updated for you by the schoolhouse, then go ahead and bring your completion certificate into the Education Services Office, and it'll get updated for you. For IMA folks, we just ask that you scan that completion certificate in to a MyPERS ticket, assign it to the education category, and in the subject line, if you just put enlisted PME updates and with a certificate attached, we'll know what to do with it, and we'll let you know when the update is completed. Okay, Officer PME works a little bit different. Now we're going to talk a little bit about officers, but Officer PME can only be updated at Air University. So you'll want to send your completion information to either the email listed or the address on the screen. This update cannot be accomplished at base level or at your education services office. It can only be done at your university. All right, same thing for your academic levels. It can't be completed at your base level education services office. It's going to be needed to send to AFIT. So same thing, you're going to send your official transcripts that are signed and sealed at the registrar's office to AFIT at the address listed on the screen. Additionally, AFIT can accept e-transcripts at the address listed. So if the institution that you went to school at has the capability to send e-transcripts, you can have them sent to that address on the screen. Again, they cannot accept scanned-in diplomas or unofficial transcripts. Same thing for Education Services Office for Enlisted. We do see that quite a bit. People will just scan in their diploma, take a picture of it hanging on their wall and say, can you update this in my records? Per the AFI, we do have to have the official transcripts from the accredited institution. All right, formal training for officers is going to be the exact same process for enlisted folks. So the schoolhouse is going to complete the update for you. If it's not completed, then you'll want to send your completion certificate to OTA at AFPC, and they will complete that update for you. All right, so here at ARPC, we are the Servicing Education Office for IMAs. However, this tuition assistance information is relevant to all traditional reservists. Here's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover just a little bit about what the program is, who's eligible for it, the rates, the benefits, everybody's responsibility. So there's a few people that need to be involved in this program: your supervisor, your education services office, you. There's a few prohibitions, exceptions, and then a little bit on how to process. Additionally, there is a required tuition assistance briefing that you must attend before you can become eligible for tuition assistance. This briefing is not intended to replace that initial counseling briefing that you would receive from your education services office. If you are an IMA reservist, just go ahead and reach out to our office at ARPC, and we can set up a conference to get you this briefing. If you're a traditional reservist, you'll want to get it at your base through your local education services office. All right, so Chapter 362649, or AFI 362649, Chapter 9 covers reserve tuition assistance. Reserve tuition assistance is designed to mirror active duty tuition assistance with a few exceptions. So the programs are almost virtually the same. However, just the funding source is different. So if you are AGR or on extended active duty, you would need to use active duty funding as opposed to reserve funding. This program is an incentive just designed to get people in and keep them in. All right, so to be eligible, you just need to be a member of the selected reserve and actively participating for pay and points. You lose your eligibility if you're on a UIF, failed PT test, referral EPR. Additionally, if you leave the selected reserve, you're going to lose your eligibility. Enlisted folks need to be in the selected reserve for the entire time that they're in classes funded by tuition assistance. Officers, on the other hand, are going to incur a 4-year reserve service commitment. Not only do they need to be assigned to the selected reserve throughout the duration of the courses that they take, but they also need to be assigned and satisfactorily participating for the entire 4 years after the completion of each course in tuition assistance. Those service commitments do not run consecutively, they're concurrent. So if you're taking classes back to back to back, essentially your service commitment would expire 4 years after the most recent course that you have taken. So your education service office is going to be your belly button for tuition assistance. Like I said, if you're an IMA, you're going to want to call us and we will walk you through this process. But we're going to counsel you on kind of how the benefit works and what you need to do to ensure that you stay in good standing. We're going to validate your tuition assistance applications through a system called AFMS, which is just our end of AFVEC, which is your end of the Virtual Education Center. We're going to ensure that the tuition assistance documents that you submit to us are in compliance with regulations governing the program. And then we're going to monitor AFMS to ensure that not only we are keeping information about the program up to date in the system, but we are also keeping your information up to date. As education services offices, we do have the authority to deny your tuition assistance. One of the biggest reasons why we would deny tuition assistance is for an excessive course load. So if for any reason we believe that you are taking more classes than you can handle, then we will deny and let you know why, and then you'll need to bring your course load down to an acceptable range. So we've had tuition assistance documents for an undergraduate for 18 plus hours. Meanwhile, the member was actively participating in their unit and with a full-time job. We ended up denying them and had them come down a little bit on that. Additionally, for graduate programs, you need to maintain a GPA of a 3.0 or higher. If your GPA falls below that, you'll need to fund courses out of pocket to bring your cumulative GPA above 3.0. Undergraduates, 2.0. Reserve TA cannot be used to bring your GPA up to within good standing to continue using the program. If you use your own funds to bring your GPA up, then that'll be out of pocket on your own. All right, so your supervisor is going to be kind of the belly button on the mission implications for this program. So if you being in school is going to impact the mission adversely, then they have the responsibility to deny your TA request. And vice versa, they're also going to help develop you personally and professionally. So if there is time for you to go to school and you express a desire to them, they should encourage you to look at tuition assistance as an option. You as a supervisor, if you have somebody asking you about tuition assistance, you should consider everything related to the mission to include deployments. If the member's going to be going to upgrade training, TEY, PCSs, or going to PME. Any of these could potentially harm the member's capability of passing the course or being successful in these TDYs, upgrade trainings, PMEs. So you want to weigh those options. You know your member. If they can do it, go ahead and approve it. It's up to you. If they can't do it, then deny it and let them know why. You as a member using tuition assistance, you'll need to actively participate for pay and points throughout the duration of the course. And like we said earlier, officers would need to stay assigned throughout the duration of the course plus 4 years afterwards. Discuss with your supervisor your intention to utilize tuition assistance and go back to school. Provide an evaluated degree plan to your Education Services Office. So the evaluated degree plan is just going to show us exactly what you need to do to complete your degree goal. Complete the Reserve TA training. So that's going to be the initial counseling that you need to do with your Education Services Office, where they're setting you up for success to use the program. Submit all of your funding requests, which is your request for funding for tuition assistance, no earlier than 60 calendar days prior to the start of the course, but no later than 7 days. Headquarters ARPC cannot authorize tuition assistance that is submitted late. So after that 7 days prior to the course start date, it's going to be denied. And then you need to successfully complete all of your courses. So again, undergraduate, C or better, graduate, B or better. If you don't successfully complete the courses, then we'll have to recoup the funds that were issued for tuition assistance. Final grades are due from your institution within 60 days of course completion. It's your responsibility to keep your eye on your virtual education record. If the grades aren't uploaded within 30 days, I advise our members to reach out to the school and have them update your education record with your passing grades. If they're not updated within 60 days, it'll start a reimbursement process. You'll have to refund the Air Force the tuition assistance funds that were issued, regardless of a passing grade or not. If you're having a hard time with your school getting them to put the grades in, reach out to your Education Services Office. We have points of contact at every school, and we can have them upload the grades or get official transcripts from them so we can put the grades in for you. Additionally, you're responsible for paying all institution costs not covered by Reserve TA. So some schools will charge you a parking lot fee, gymnasium fees, lab fees, technology fees, you name it. They can charge you for just about anything. The only thing that tuition assistance is going to pay for is going to be tuition. And it's going to pay $250 per semester hour that you take. And it's capped out at $4,500 per fiscal year. So if you burn through all $4,500 before the new fiscal year is up, you'll have to either start using your own funding, GI Bill funding, until the new fiscal year to continue your education. All right, and here's just some of the prohibitions for tuition assistance. The main thing is you cannot seek a degree that's at an equivalent or lower level than one you have already attained. So if you already have a bachelor's degree, for instance, if you're an officer and you have a bachelor's degree, then you can't go and use TA for another bachelor's degree. Same thing for enlisted. If you have an associate's degree, you can't use TA to go get an associate's degree. Additionally, post-master's courses are not authorized. So once you get your master's degree, you're pretty much done. With a few exceptions, you're done with tuition assistance. TA won't cover certifications or professional degrees. It's not authorized for off-duty foreign languages, and it's not authorized for not dominant and forced languages. There is an exception for that, though. If you are wanting to take language courses for a not prevalent in force language, there is some capability for us to authorize you taking language courses for that reason. So Reserve TA can be used if you possess any degree and you wish to finish your CCAF. So if you have your bachelor's degree and for some reason it doesn't fulfill the requirements for your CCAF, you can be authorized to take courses to fulfill those requirements. Additionally, you can take courses that lead to a teaching certification. That's the only certification that the Reserve TA will cover. And then Air Force Reserve attorneys can seek a second graduate degree in the cyber law program. And kind of like what I foot stomped earlier, Just make sure that your TA requests are in the system no earlier than 60 days prior to the course start date and no later than 7 days. Have a validated, evaluated degree plan on file with your Education Services Office in AFEC. You are responsible for uploading your in AFEC. However, in some circumstances, your Education Services Office can do it on your behalf if you're unable to access the system. You'll just need to be there with them to give them the information that they'll require. And again, we can't authorize late TA. So late TA is defined as a request submitted after a class start date. And we can't authorize after the fact TA, which is for courses that you have already completed. And I kind of mentioned this earlier, but tuition assistance is going to pay you $250 per semester hour. If you're going to a quarter-hour school, it's broken down to $166.67 per hour. The fiscal year cap is $4,500. Again, reserve TA is not going to pay for labs, instruction, technology fees, parking lot fees, anything like that. So it's going to be covering your tuition only. One of the good benefits about reserve TA is that you can use it for either online or distance learning courses. When you're using your GI Bill, generally you're going to get a reduced rate of your GI Bill if you go distance learning. Tuition assistance is going to pay the full benefit regardless of online or distance learning. You just need to make sure that you're at a regionally or nationally accredited institution who has a signed MOU on file with the Department of Defense. So knowing that they have a signed MOU on file with the Department of Defense, it's just that they're going to be eligible in AFEC. So you will see that when you are applying for that school in the Air Force Virtual Education Center. If they are not in there or they are not checked eligible for tuition assistance, it may mean that they are not regionally or nationally accredited, or they don't have an MOU on file with the Department of Defense. So you cannot use tuition assistance for that institution. Additionally, you can find accredited institutions at the education.gov at the link you see there. Reserve TA is an incentive, not an entitlement. That's something that we always tell everybody, that the program is available based off of funding. For as long as I've been in the office, we've never actually shut down the program. We have had quite a few funding holds, funding freezes, and delay in funding. However, we haven't stopped our members from actually using TA. It just varies on when the schools actually receive the payments. If payment is ever late from us and the school starts harassing you about reserve tuition assistance funding, just let them know to get in contact with us. And as the member, do not pay for the tuition assistance that the Air Force is going to pay for. It gets pretty hard to get you your money back once you do that. Some schools like to ask the members to pay out of pocket, even though the Air Force Reserve is going to make that payment. So get in contact with the Education Services Office before you do anything like that. Additionally, Reserve TA is paid directly to the school. I guess once upon a time, TA was paid after the fact to members after they completed courses and paid out of their own pocket. Now Reserve TA is paid directly to the schools up front, usually within the first week or two of the courses starting. It all depends on when the school invoices the Air Force. So we are going to roll into the post 9/11 briefing with Ms. Diana Gibbs. Thank you.
So today I'm going to go over the post 9/11 GI Bill and the transfer of education benefits, also known as TEB. So this is what we're going to go over first. We're going to take a look at exactly what is the post 9/11 GI Bill, who is eligible, what kind of training you can take, what will you receive, what do you need to do if you need a letter of certification from us for the VA, how and where to apply for that, and any additional information, and then we will be saving questions for later on. So the post 9/11 GI Bill, it's an education benefit program run by the Department of Veteran Affairs for any or more on active duty since September 11th, 2001. Here are the regulations that cover this program. You have your DOTI and your AFI, and they have quite a bit of information in there. So if you have any questions, you can go into those regulations and take a look. So here's who is eligible. It does require a minimum of 90 days active service since September 11th, and your basic training, IADT, and annual tours do not count. For the Air National Guard, there's only two types of Title 32 orders which count, and those are identified as your AGR orders or authorized by the President of Defense for the purpose of responding to a national emergency declared by the President and supported by federal funds. That's the key piece for the Air National Guard orders. They have to be federally funded. So if you have any questions, if it's not federally funded, they do not count towards the 90 days of the active service. Now, if you do have 3 or more years of regular Air Force time, then you do not need a letter of certification. And you can just attach your copies of your DD-214s to the VA's form to apply for this program. So here are the kind of trainings that the post 9/11 GI Bill will cover. It's going to universities to include a second master's or a PhD. It will include trade schools, flight training, independent and distance learning, apprenticeships, voc school and tech schools, on-the-job training, tuition assistance top-up, which Sergeant Van Horn kind of talked about on the last briefing. It will offer licensing and any certification tests that you may need. Now, what it will pay for, it's your tuition and fees will be capped at the most expensive public institution. And you will receive a housing allowance at the rate of staff sergeant, and it's based on the zip code of the campus where you physically attend a majority of the classes. That's a change that happened previously. It was in the zip code that the school was at, but in the majority of your classes. And then they also do provide a book stipend up to $1,000. So you can receive up to 36 months of the post 9/11 GI Bill, not to exceed 48 months in a combination of different programs, and that includes the Montgomery GI Bill. You can see the breakdown of the percentage of the benefit that is based upon the total number of your qualifying active duty days. So if you have between 90 and 179 days, you're going to receive 40% of your tuition and fees. If you have the 3 years or more, then you're going to receive 100%. One of the nice things that did change was after January 1st of 2013, your post 9/11 GI Bill will expire as long as you have your qualifying period of 90 days was after January 1st, 2013. Previously, if your 90 days is before the 2013, you do only have 15 years to use your post 9/11 GI Bill. And that does not, if you have your qualifying period of 90 days before January 2013 and you do fall under that 15-year delimiting period, do realize that does not apply if you transfer those benefits. And I will talk about that in a little bit later. Okay. So if you have less than 3 years of active duty service, the VA is going to require a letter of certification. And so we here at the ARPC can provide you with that letter of certification. So in order to request the letter of certification, please review your point credit summary, and you find that on virtual MPF. And the points that you're looking for fall under 1, 2s, 3s, or 5s on your summary. And then for your Air National Guard members, please look at your orders. And again, your state-funded orders are excluded, but any of your orders that were federally funded and fall under the appropriate categories will be counted. So then you need to log into your MyPERS account to request a letter of certification from our office. This is what the letter of certification is going to look like. You will be sent it through MyPERS because it does have PII on it, and it is your responsibility to submit this particular form to the VA and also keep a copy for your records. We do not keep copies of this letter of certification. We only keep them for about a year or so. So it is your responsibility to keep a copy. And then if you do incur more time, more duty that you feel counts, feel free to reach our office and we will generate a new letter of certification for you to take back to the VA. So once you receive your letter of certification back, you're going to complete the electronic equivalent of the VA 22-199 website is listed. You're going to attach your letter of certification as supporting documentation. And if the VA has already provided you a letter of eligibility that is less than what our letter of certification is showing, you can use that as documentation to appeal the VA decision. And then once you've submitted your application, please the VA after you submit your packet. So now we're going to discuss how to transfer your education benefits for your post 9/11. And what we're going to cover today is the eligibility to transfer the education benefits, transferring those benefits to your dependents or children, how to apply for the transfer, and then we'll be opening everything up for questions. So one of the most important pieces to remember is you have to have your post-9/11 eligibility at the time of transfer and be participating in the select reserve. Once you apply to transfer, you will incur a 4-year service commitment from the date of transfer. And as of 12 July, you have to commit to a 4-year service obligation at the time of transfer. There is no more waivers. So if you have an MSD or a higher tenure date or under a current medical board, you are not going to be eligible. For the medical board, if you are currently going through a medical board, once that is concluded, you are able to apply as long as you're able to serve that 4-year service commitment. You must have 6 years of satisfactory service on the date of request of the transfer. Your spouse can use the benefit right away at the 6 years of satisfactory service. However, your dependent children cannot use the benefit until you've had 10 years of satisfactory service. Good news, this year they rescinded the requirement that if you have more than 16 years in service, you are not eligible to transfer your benefits. That requirement has been rescinded. So now if you do have more than 16 years in service, you are eligible to apply. It all just comes back to as long as you have the ability to serve those additional extra 4 years. So your dependents must be listed in DEERS in order to transfer. If your dependent has not enrolled in a full-time degree-seeking program at 21 years of age, they will fall out. They can receive the benefit up to their 23rd birthday. If you decide to transfer the benefit to your dependent and it's after their 23rd birthday, they are not eligible. So anytime before the dependent's 23rd birthday, please transfer. And then they can use it up until their 26th birthday. Additionally, a dependent marriage is not going to affect their benefit usage. This is an important piece. While you are participating in the select reserve, you can revoke and modify the election and make any additional dependents eligible. However, after you leave the selective reserve, you cannot add a dependent. And if you have not given at least 1 month to every dependent that's listed in DEERS, after you leave participating status, you will not be able to modify the election or make any additional dependents eligible. Another important note is Cat E members are not eligible to transfer as they are not selected a reserve, i.e. drilling for pay. In order to transfer your educational benefits, you have to be in a drilling for pay status. Here's how you apply to transfer your benefits to your dependents. You log on to MillConnect, and right there on the second button down on the left-hand side will be Transfer Education Benefits. And it is pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions, but feel free to reach out to our office and we can help walk you through. And that also includes after you apply and are approved, if you're having any issues making changes within the dependents that are listed in the system, please feel free to reach out to our office and we can help you with that. So now we are opening this up for questions. You can ask any questions to either Sergeant Van Horn or myself on any of the topics that we have discussed.
So Skips, I have a couple questions for you because we have about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Questions. Okay, so the first one is there a restriction for Cat E IMAs? Can they receive Res TA?
I feel like I can answer that. So no, I answered that one already in a private message, but we can publicly say it. So CATE and IRR members are not eligible for reserve TA. You have to be actively participating for paying points in the selected reserve, which is defined by Cat A and Cat B reserve.
Okay. Okay, next question. This is from Major Sadia Hill. I'm sorry if I messed up your last name. For officers, if we have completed a program that gives PME or ID credit and also credit for an advanced academic degree via Air University, will that automatically be updated, or will transcripts need to be sent to AFIT from Air University? This specific program question is in regards to an AU distance learning course.
So from my experience, and at least what I have heard of how this works, is that it generally is automatic that they'll send the transcripts over to AFIT. However, if they don't get updated, you'll probably need to have those sent. I advise that member just to get in contact with AFIT and see what they would require to get those credits on file.
Okay. Okay, next question. This is from Colonel Patrick Ryan. Is there legislation to include the professional certificates? For example, CIO certificates, program management certificate, etc. Now that so many functionals require or encourage those certificates, especially at senior grades? Or is that something that could be brought to ARFPC?
So Colonel Ryan, Reserve TA strictly prohibits the use of TA for certifications except for the teaching cert. The Air Force Cool Office down at AFPC does handle a lot of required certifications. Like I know at ARPC, we have a lot of our members who are going for professional management certifications down there. And so it does require that you're on active duty orders the day of your test. But Air Force Cool has different requirements and different payouts. And you'd want to get in contact with them to verify your eligibility for that.
Okay, this is going to be a tricky question, just warning. With trying to recruit the next generation to join the armed services, can you tell us who provides better education benefits? The Air National Guard or AFRC, and why?
Well, I can tell you that the Air National Guard has been far behind the Air Force Reserve until recently. They are working on bringing on their federal tuition assistance program as we speak, and I'll actually get to be a part of that. But so it used to be that the Air National Guard had state-funded programs which were inconsistent with active duty and reserve programs, sometimes underfunded, and eligibility was limited. I would say, strictly speaking, as far as tuition assistance goes, you're safe either way with Air National Guard bringing up federal tuition assistance. The post 9/11 GI Bill, you do have to think about the state-funded orders that don't qualify towards your eligibility for the post 9/11. And for Chapter 1606, your eligibility is going to work exactly the same as the Air Force Reserve.
Thank you. Okay, this question is from Major Kim Russo. What if we received our 3 years of eligibility for 100% over the period from April 2020 to April 2013? So is it 15 years or a lifetime benefit?
As of January 1st, 2013, to include everybody into the Forever GI Bill, so you would need 90 days of consecutive active duty service after January 1st, 2013. So if you were on active duty during that time, then you would be in the Forever GI Bill. If you did not have a period of eligibility after January 1st, 2013, then you would be in the 15-year delimiting period, which would expire 15 years from your last all 90 consecutive days. So whichever one applies to you.
Okay, and this is our last question. It's from the same individual, Major Kim Russo, and she's looking into a master's program at a very reputable institution called the INSEAD in France. What is the easiest way for them to participate with the Air Force in TA? Do they need to get on the list by way of an MOA with DoD? And how cumbersome is this process? So they're already approved through the VA and also the GI Bill. And yep, okay, I think that's the end of the question.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So for tuition assistance, VA runs the GI bills. But for tuition assistance, they need to be regionally or nationally accredited by the Department of Education. Additionally, they need to have that MOU on file with the Department of Defense. From my understanding, that process isn't too complicated as long as they have that regional or national accreditation. And there is actually a website, it's mou.gov, where they can go and select themselves as an institution and set themselves up with that MOU. But I would want to make sure that they were regionally or nationally accredited by the Department of Education first.